Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming back my good friend, Alix Elias, who you all know as Coach Steroid from Rock and Roll High School. I'm having her back on the show today. We are going to have a nice conversation about kindness and empathy and the problems of the world today. And it's going to be pretty good. I can't wait to talk to Alix again. She's a sweet lady. She sent me an autographed picture at Christmas time, and I was very grateful to her for that. It was very, very nice. And I love talking to Alix. She's just an absolute sweetheart. So yeah, here is my new interview with Alix Elias.
Hello.
Hey Alix, welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Well, we're doing okay. We're hanging in there.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Just doing my podcast a lot. This has been the best year for it. The best.
Oh, excellent.
Even before the pandemic started, it's been great. I've just been talking to icons. Yeah, it's just... How are you holding up in this crazy time overall, though?
Well, it's depressing, but, New York City is starting to gradually reopen, which is kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a giant flower beginning to open up slowly. But that carries risks, and, for example, our block has got a whole bunch of restaurants on it, like 6 or 7, and they've all made, outdoor cafes. They're basically taking up most of the sidewalk on a lot of the practice places.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nice in a way. They've all got flowers, and it's very cheerful and all that. But on the other hand, you just wonder. I took my husband out for his birthday to one of them, and of course you can't have a mask on while you're eating.
Yeah.
So, and then the people walking down the sidewalk are grumpy because they see all these people with no masks on.
Mm-hmm.
You have to walk between them, kind of. So, it's a trade-off, I guess. New York's doing well. It's doing much better than many other states. And so that's heartening.
Wow.
But, and I keep reading that they're finding new things. They're working on those vaccines and treatments and stuff, but it's still kind of nerve-wracking. You don't want to let down your guard. I mean, we wear masks and gloves even everywhere when we go out.
Yeah.
And when the few times we've had to go on the subway, we also wear a face shield.
Yeah. Face shield.
Sorry, we're so bundled up.
Yeah.
And so far, it's worked. I had to do a little a little shoot yesterday. That's something I'd shot before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were all wearing masks, except when they were actually doing the shots. And it was just a couple of little bits, but still. So I got tested. Mm-hmm. Everybody agreed to get tested ahead of time. And so I was negative, but, that was a week ago.
Yeah.
And that's true with everybody. I mean, that was a week ago. So are you still negative?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I got tested back in May, and I had been sick for maybe 48 hours, and it was a very bad flu I had, and to have that Q-tip up your nose, it was so uncomfortable.
It hurts, yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't figured out a new way to give you a test now.
I'm sure there is such a thing, but, it's not available to us. I mean, we're still doing the swab up the nose.
Yeah.
We did get a blood test, which was, but that was for, traces of having had it before, the antibody test.
Yeah.
So that's not so bad. But I mean, it's just part of modern living. So did you test negative in May?
I was negative, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just bad flu.
It was just a bad flu. It was pretty bad, yeah.
I read that they're thinking that people that get other sorts of vaccines, like flu vaccine and shingles and all those kind of stuff, they may have some protection against the virus, against COVID-19. It's some sort of theory that, your body gets primed to fight things off because it's had all these other vaccines.
Right.
So that may be helpful because we get those flu vaccines every year. Do you get that?
I get the vaccine shots every year, yeah.
And you got flu anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're 100% accurate vaccine shots in terms of helping.
Not.
Yeah. I think people can get sick off of them anyways, But I get them like around September, October, and this happened in May, so yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
But we're going to get them in this September. Next month, we'll go and get the flu vaccine anyway, because why not? And with our medical coverage, it's free, so we can just get it at the drugstore.
Yeah, that's very convenient. But, I wanted to talk about how, there's kindness and empathy that's lacking in today's world, I feel.
Oh, God. Well, we were right in the middle of a riot. We were very near Washington Square Park, where protests have been going on, for weeks and weeks. And that one night, right after they started looting, they were looting in our block. I mean, the store directly across from our front door, there's it's actually a repair shop, but they sell phones. I guess that was the deal, and they broke in. And I saw some of the footage, which was on, there's a local online newspaper called the Village Sun, which has footage. And then, as they were running away, the police, I guess, had been alerted, and the police showed up in a car, and they cut off the car that was taking the looters away, and a policeman got out, and the car ran into him. He wasn't badly injured, and they did finally find the guy. At least they found the guy whose car it was. But, I mean, that was like on my doorstep,
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I think that looting, I think it's just horrible. And, I mean, I know that's still going on in Chicago, and I guess God knows what's going on in Portland, where they've been rioting steadily for 60 days or some nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see, I mean, you made your point, and you're preaching to the choir, and so I don't know what the point is to continue with this protesting, and especially the violence and the looting. I mean, I just am not in favor of it. It just doesn't seem to me that it sort of gets us anywhere. But, I mean, part of it probably also is due to COVID because people aren't working, kids are out of school, so they're available. I mean, those that want to engage in this kind of violent demonstration, they don't have to get up and go to work, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I think I just think it's awful. And then there was a whole thing in the paper today where this agitator who was a leader of one of these movements was saying, oh, go ahead and loot, because these stores have insurance. It's all right. It's reparations, she said. And I'm like, I don't think so. But, it's just part of all of these stresses that we're going through these days is just kind of one thing on top of the other.
Yeah.
What do you think about Kamala Harris being the vice presidential candidate. Are you in favor of that?
I mean, I've seen her a couple times on Joe Rogan's podcast, but I don't know too much about her in depth, but I mean, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about Biden, but overall, but I think though that anybody who's not Trump or his administration could do a better job,
Fine. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think Biden can do a second term is the problem.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of postponing a bunch of difficult decisions until, if he wins, which unless Trump is able to steal the election somehow, and he's apparently going to try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to have to go through not exactly this, but something similar in 4 years. But I guess we'll deal with that when it comes. So, any of the people you've been talking to, have they been acting? Have they been doing any acting work? Or?
A lot of them have been at home, and some of them, they've been doing virtual acting, which I think is really, really strange and terrible at the same time of filming their scenes virtually. And I hate to see how the movies are going to turn out with those scenes being done virtual. I don't know how that's going to translate. I hope that's not going to be our future with film.
No, I hope not. But they're getting more clever with it. My husband got a job, and it was on a series. It's a indie. I call it, I guess, an indie series, which was self-financed by the guy who's playing the lead and all that. Mm-hmm. And I guess he wants to shoot. I don't know if it's a whole season or just 1 or 2 episodes, and then try to sell it.
Right.
And so he saw the little web series that I've been doing with my husband, and said, he would like to use Richard to play the father. And so he got the part. We're waiting to hear how they want to do it. They're going to try to do it on Zoom, but they're going to give us some kind of equipment to shoot it on, because I don't know. When we try to do Zoom, we've got a comedy class. We take a comedy class once a week for seniors, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
And then we have an actor group that we ordinarily meet with in person.
Yeah.
Every week for 3 hours, and now that's on Zoom. But it's not terribly good quality is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine that working out very well. But they said they were going to drop off some sort of equipment, and I don't know how they figured it out. And I had an audition for a project that was shooting somewhere in New England, I think it was Connecticut.
Yeah.
And their plan was to hire the people and have them come a week early to the location and just keep everybody in the location for a week to see if anybody got sick. And if nobody got sick, then they'd start shooting. But that's only a week. And the other problem with that is that, presumably then they would have to pay us for that week. So instead of get sick, like the part I was up for was really just a 1-day shoot, maybe 2 at most.
Yeah.
That I'd have to be paid for 8 days, so that I'd be paid, 7 or 8 times what they would normally pay. Of course, in terms of if it was low budget, which I think it was, SAG, then, that's not a huge amount of money, but it's still a lot more than most shoots would pay. But I thought that was kind of imaginative. I thought, well, okay.
Yeah.
People are thinking, outside the box. They're thinking of new ways to continue doing some kind of, work. So I was impressed. And I didn't get, as far as I know, I didn't get that. Although, weirdly enough, I think I had actually gotten that part
Mm-hmm.
like 6 months ago, but they had lost their funding. It was longer. It was like a year ago, and I got the part. And then they said, "Oh, we're terribly sorry. We've lost our funding, but we will make this eventually." So now, a year later, I get this audition for the same part, and I'm like, this is weird. I'm thinking to myself, this seems exactly like, I think I've read this before, like, or is this part just like the cliche, like the nosy neighbor kind of thing?
Yeah.
That they're all like, you can't even tell them apart, and then somebody said, "No, Alex, this is the same film." Somebody else picked it up and is now producing it, and of course I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But that's show business.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who are worried about the future of live theater.
Oh, forget it. I mean, I don't think there's any way you can do live theater at least for another year. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go to it aside from, being in it. Although I was contacted by this playwright in France who had met me 30, 40 years ago and asked me to work on his play. He's 84, and it's just kind of this endless, kind of long monologue, kind of Beckian in a way. And and I said I'd work on it a little bit just to keep myself in shape, but I said, "Look, Alan, there's no way that you can do live theater in this country anyway. I mean, there's no way. I mean, even with a vaccine, I think, it would be like a year. I don't know what's going to happen to all the Broadway theaters. I hope to God they keep them open. I mean, they don't turn them into, hotels or something."
Yeah.
But, it's certainly, you're never going to get rid of live theater completely. Yeah. It's something people want. It's something people respond to and, need. And, but in terms of things like highly organized live theater, like Broadway and stuff like that, I mean, that's going to take a hit.
Yeah.
Sure. But
it's scary.
And now, you're in Northern California, are you?
Yeah, Redding.
Uh-huh.
And
I don't know if you've got any of those big old theaters around here where you are. I mean, a lot of them, except for New York City and maybe Chicago and stuff. A lot of those big theaters have been going under anyway for years.
We got one theater here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many does it seat?
I don't know. I haven't been there.
Oh.
I've only been here a couple of years. And I haven't gone out that much. But we have one theater here. We got 2 movie theaters. I mean, this town is that small.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
that's not bad. That's sort of like a human scale.
Yeah. Our movie theaters are tiny though because they're very old school, It's not like when you go to Cinemark and they're like huge and there's an upstairs and a downstairs. No, these are just level ground theaters, like built in the 50s. Yeah.
I kind of like those. We go to a couple we used to back when you could travel on vacation. There's a couple places we used to go that would have those little theaters like that, and I kind of liked them. They seem more on a more human scale, or maybe it just reminds me of my childhood or something.
Yeah.
Do you like those big movie theaters, those big movie palaces?
Yeah, I mean either way, big or small, I just love going to the theaters.
They are fun.
They are a lot of fun, and I miss going to the movies. I'm so bored over here. I mean, I love doing this and everything, but I just miss going out and seeing a movie, going to the conventions. Everyone's doing virtual Comic Cons and horror cons now, and I hope that's not going to be permanently in the future. I know that there's going to be probably a lot more of them even after this, but I don't participate in them because I don't want to talk to everyone for like 2 minutes and then have them send me an autograph, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I guess the whole fun of going to those conventions is you get to see the people live, right? The live experience, hopefully.
Yeah, but now, after this, probably everyone's going to still be social distanced from each other. They're going to be passing out hand sanitizer and so forth. It's just going to be, it's going to be a pain in the ass, quite frankly.
It's going to be different. It'll be different. But,
yeah.
I mean, the thing is you want to keep things going. You don't want things to just, end and dry up and blow away.
Yeah.
You want to keep things going on some level.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do
Once this is over, you'll still have it. Come back.
Yeah. Do you think, though, that empathy is learned or it's genetic?
Well, I was reading something about this. I think some types of empathy are ingrained, but not everybody, has it to the same degree. Because there was some article about how because that's what has enabled the human species, to continue. The fact that you're looking out for other people and, you're not just, it was when people started getting together in groups and functioning in little groups or little societies, that's when you had big advances in things like, language and writing and farming and all that kind of stuff. Because you needed to have groups. So those people that could do that had an advantage over those people that couldn't do that and died out. But, I mean, it's certainly true that some people are more empathetic than other people. And, and some people seem to be just totally selfish and self-involved. So, but I think on the whole, I'm more sort of like people are good as opposed to people are intrinsically evil. And you see it, especially, when you get out of a big city, for example, people are so nice. They seem to be helpful and give you directions and, give you back your wallet when you drop it accidentally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that people are kind of, that it's ingrained in some way. It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
I mean, we do better. We do better if we look out for each other. And so that's an advantage. That's like a personal advantage as well, rather than, just trying to screw everybody over.
Yeah, I've always had a big heart, and I feel bad for people who go through the things that I've gone through, but the sad thing is, though, there's so many con artists in this world who take advantage of kind people, and it's so hard to be giving now.
Well, you've got to be smart about it. You don't want to. I think a certain amount of caution is a good thing to have, but on the whole, I don't assume that people are going to screw me over when I meet them for the first time, but I am cautious. I try to find out a little bit about where they're coming from, and first, before I hand over my life savings or something. But I don't know, it's kind of it's also kind of an individual personality trait, you might say. That people, other people that don't seem to care about other people and are just out to make money off of them or something like that. That's their job. I think they would consider that their job or something. That was a job skill. But I don't think that the majority of people are like that, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, just sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, like one of the things that's a hot issue here, I don't know if it is where you are, is people wearing masks. Now, people wearing masks they're doing it here, and it's kind of like they're doing it more and more. I mean, more and more people are doing it, and that is definitely not only a survival mechanism for the person wearing the mask, but for everybody around us. And it's kind of peculiar, it seems to me, that there's so much resistance.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, you know, last July, I found out this friend of mine died. He had died in January of last year, and I didn't know about it until July. He probably represents the last, probably the last and most recent random act of kindness I have ever experienced. In June of 2011, I was at a Jack in the Box one night getting some food, and he was working there. He was the only Caucasian working there, and he and I were the only two Caucasians there. It was like a really seedy inner city Jack in the Box that I had grown up going to this location, and it changed over the years. And he was being just treated so badly, being talked down to and stuff, but remaining cool and calm. And I felt so bad for the guy. And so after being screamed at by someone who's in front of me, it was my turn, you know, and stuff. And I told him what I wanted, and I was just like, "Are you okay, man?" He's like, "Yeah, it's just my first week." He's just like, "Yeah, this is this is not what I signed up for, but I've got to do it." And then I go home that night, and he's still on my mind. And I saw his name tag. His name was Eldon, and I typed it in on Facebook, and I found him and friend requested him, and he accepted. And then about 3 months later, I went back in, and he was a completely different person. He had a smile on his face. He loved just what he was doing. It was just the complete opposite, right? And he sees me, and he's like, "Hey, it's my buddy," you know? And he gives me
he stuck with it. He didn't give up. He didn't let it defeat him.
Well, this was 2011 when the recession was still pretty bad, and he couldn't find a job. So he gives me a free meal, and then he gives me his number and says, "If you ever need anything, call me." And
how sweet.
Not too long after that, I did need him for something, but he wasn't able to do it. And then when I was homeless in 2014, I got in touch with him, and he was in the same boat, unfortunately. And he couldn't help me then either, too. But he got his stuff together before he died, though, and he died doing something he loved. He was in the middle of an antique shop, and he collected antiques. Yeah.
What was it how did he die? What happened to him?
He just had a heart attack.
Oh.
Yeah.
God. Was he a young person?
He was 52.
Oh, dear.
So fairly young. Yeah, fairly young.
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
He didn't know it. One of those underlying conditions that he didn't know about, probably.
Probably, yeah. But stuff like that, that's just, that's kindness and empathy that's like lacking in today's world, and I think that was just wonderful,
But he was. I mean, it wasn't lacking in him, and he's in this world, so,
yeah.
There's other people like that, too, who are kind and empathetic and, as well as all the bad people who are mean and nasty. And it feeds you. I think that when you do unselfish things for other people, that it feeds you. It feeds the person who's doing it in a way that makes life seem richer and better and makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. there's a fine line between being selfish and being self-centered. You know?
I mean, a certain type of self-centered is actually probably positive. Like, you look out for yourself. You don't let life defeat you in a way.
Yeah.
How did you end up homeless?
Okay, so...
Circumstances?
Oh, this is... Okay, so in 2005, my mom's boyfriend lost his job and completely lost his mind at the same time. And he went from being a great guy that I could be proud of as like a stepfather, even though they weren't married, and to a very mean, bitter guy. He lost custody of his kids at the same time, everything. It was pretty bad.
Dear.
So went to Arizona, because they had some friends out there who could help them. And he decided to buy a house for us to live out there because after my grandmother had died in 2002, we wanted to get out of California and we wanted to go somewhere else because we had relatives in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And so he bought the house. We moved in February of 2007, and I left after 3 months. He and I were fighting all the time, and it was hot down there, and there was I didn't know anybody. It was just bad energy. So I came back here. My mom followed me a few months later, and we got our old apartment back eventually, and things were great. But then he came back into our lives in 2010 after he had to sell the house, and
oh dear,
he lost a lot of money. So we're living in our old apartment, and things are going on that I'm oblivious to. He had a girlfriend on the side while he was living under our roof. Yeah, it was a girl he dated in high school. She had just gotten divorced, and they were doing drugs. And so he wiped out my mother's bank account. He took my trust fund, everything. And I was already going through something bad financially with my Social Security. We had to go to court and stuff. And then by October 30th, 2013, everything was gone. And she broke up with him, and we lived in our car and crashed on people's houses all the way until early 2017, and then we moved up here. And I had my...
And why did you move up there? Was there a job opportunity or something? Or
she got a job up here, and
good.
And our credit was so bad we couldn't get a place to live in the Bay Area no more. And my godmother, who lives up here, helped her get the place that we live in now. And I wanted to go straight to L.A. I got an offer to go to L.A. From a comedian that I knew and stuff. And I wish I had taken that. I wish I hadn't come up here, but I'm glad I did because I don't know if I had started the podcast up there, but it's been a real blessing, and my accident that I had in 2015 was just a big part of the equation. I'm just so blessed.
Well, I mean, but isn't a podcast, couldn't you move it? I mean, wouldn't it go with you wherever you went?
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying, though, I don't think I would have started it in L.A. if I had gone up there because I would have been out every day, would have
been distracted, yeah.
Yeah, because there's nothing to do over here and stuff, so that's why I've done so many. I'm going to be coming up on 1,000 pretty soon.
Oh, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to get a job also?
No, I'm on permanent disability.
Oh, sorry.
Because of my accident. No. Oh, no, it's great.
It's great.
It's great because, I never liked working, and plus I got heart issues now from the accident and stuff, and it would be too much stress,
Yeah. No. Well, but you've found a little niche for yourself. You've got not exactly a job, but you've got a sort of a career here. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I I don't think I've ever actually listened to a podcast, so I don't even know what it is. It's like a radio show, I presume, yeah?
It's a radio show not regulated by the FCC. You can say anything you want, and it's just a recorded conversation, and it's way better than radio. You don't have producers breathing down your neck saying, say this, that. It's so much better. It's the greatest thing that's happened to our world, I think.
And what's your audience? How do you find your audience?
Yep. I'm on YouTube, so I have subscribers, and it's just a bevy of different ages and stuff, and that's how you get your audience, and it's just the greatest thing that's happened to talk radio and communication, and there's so many people out there, older people who don't know what a podcast is, and I've been in situations where they don't know that it's like a radio show. They thought that I was printing an article, and they didn't want the podcast released, and weird stuff like that, and I had to do some editing and stuff. But yeah, it's been a godsend.
So when you go on YouTube, do you have like a sort of a theme? You connect with actors that you've seen in older movies and stuff like that. I mean, is that how you present it?
Yes.
To attract people?
Yes. Actors, musicians, comedians, anything that interests me. My friends who are not in show business who live in the Bay Area. Yeah, we have some great conversations. And it started out as just a horror and sci-fi show only, and then I decided not to limit myself. I decided to talk to people who have worked at all genres, and then the comedians and musicians and everything came a little bit later and stuff. Musicians were the hardest to get in touch with for a long time, but now I've talked to so many since the year began that I just feel so lucky.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, because the word of mouth, one gets you to another, I think. Musicians, well, they're like actors. They need each other.
Word of mouth, exactly.
So they communicate, which is good. Well, I did comedy in the L.A. area for a while, and also in New York.
Really?
I kept getting acting jobs. The trouble with comedy is I just kept getting acting jobs, and that's really what I do,
Yeah.
So I'd sort of get a little run going, and then I'd get an acting job, and I'd drop it. So, and then there were disadvantages too, I think, the whole staying up really late at night in clubs, because when you're a girl, when you're a woman, or you're new, they only put you on at the end. And so then you'd have to go home and like 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I didn't really like that part of it. And also I don't drink, so it's just kind of boring being around all those drinkers when you don't drink. So it was not, it's not really my thing, I think. Although my husband and I are now taking this geriatric comedy contest. Which is sort of a contradiction in terms, but it's, it's something to do, and it's like a way to connect with some new people. So we started doing that. I'm supposed to come up with a joke about dinner by next Monday, and I can't think of a thing. My mind's gone blank.
When I
think of a joke about dinner?
Yeah. I can't think of one. When I started doing stand-up comedy, I didn't drink either, but I've been around alcoholics my whole life. That it's entertaining to me, a lot of the time. Now it's annoying, but back then I always thought it was entertaining. And then I started drinking later, and then stopped once the accident happened. But I did stand-up in the Bay Area for 10 years. Did you perform at the Comedy Store?
I did actually in LA, and the thing is, in New York, I had been with an improv group, and so we maybe I didn't do the Comedy Store on Sunset. Right?
Yeah.
You talking about the one I said that? No, I didn't. I did the improv.
Okay.
And I had done the improv in New York with the improv group I was involved with because we were an improv group and he liked that. And what's his name? Andy Kaufman
Yeah.
was just starting up. So I can remember being there and having to listen to Andy Kaufman drone on. It was just excruciating. But he made that into his thing. He made that into his shtick. And people loved it. I mean, I didn't get it. But, so then when I came to New York, and I started being in LA so much, I took a class. I took a comedy class, and then we performed as we graduated. That was the graduation, was we got to perform in a club. And so I did that, and then I continued to perform in that particular club with a couple of people. And then we just started going from, I guess it must have been like that in the Bay Area. You just find different venues, you know, the other
Yes.
people tell you where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you show up and you do your 5 minutes or whatever, and then as you get more established, you know, you get more time. And then just at that point, you know, I'd get another acting job. And then I'd have to go back to the beginning, which was kind of tedious and boring. So eventually I kind of gave it up because what I was doing, in a way, was I would write a little dialogue for myself, memorize it, and get up and perform it. And I mean, I think real comedians get up and are spontaneous and warp off the audience. And
Yeah.
I felt that I wasn't really doing that. That I was more like acting, you know, a routine. I would write a routine and I would act it. So my best bit was about my underwear. It was about the underwear that women. It was like a thing about like, this is what men imagine you're wearing, and this is what you're really wearing. So that hit a nerve.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know. Sometimes I think about going back just because, well, who knows what's going to be available when this epidemic is over. But it's, again, there's just so many. For somebody who's a non-drinker, it's the whole ambience of comedy clubs and is kind of unpleasant, I think.
Oh yeah.
Me, anyway.
It is, yeah. God, there's. That's why I stopped doing it. There's so much rivalry, and he said,
Yeah.
she said. I just got tired of all that, you know, and I got away from it, and I love doing this, and
Yeah.
I want to be a horror host. I tried to make a pilot last year, and it didn't happen, and then we were going to try again this spring until the pandemic started. So hopefully next year I'll get to try it again.
And what is that exactly?
You know, like a creature features, you know, that where the horror host is presenting the horror movie
And chatting about it.
and chatting about it, interviewing the star of it, something like that, you know.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I don't think there's anything like that on right now.
There is.
There?
Yeah.
There is.
In your area, there's Offbeat Cinema, which I interviewed one of the hosts of it. She's been doing it since 1995, the show. We had it in the Bay Area for a brief time back in the early 2000s. That's how I discovered it. There's a bunch of them in the Bay Area and over here and stuff. Yeah, but a lot of them are in streaming now. And the ones who do it in streaming, you know, they self-produce their shows, you know, because back in the day, a Creature Features horror show was a network ploy to get ratings. You know, they'd have to find a host and then present and have the host present the movie, you know. But now it's considered like an art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think is bizarre because I used to go when I was a kid. I want to be a horror host, but how am I going to get a network to like, you know, find me and stuff? And I really regret not getting involved in cable access when I graduated high school, because we lived across the street from a cable access station for 9 years, and I really wasn't aware of it until just before we moved, and I'm really sad about that.
Oh, well, I tried to do a little cable access thing when I was in LA, now that you mention it, and it was a lot of work, and I don't know how much it paid off. I mean, eventually I got discouraged with the whole thing. I mean, we even did a little, what did we do? We did a little comedy show, actually. Lots of little skits, lots of little different skits, and stuck them together and, you know, tried to edit it ourselves and stuff like that. But at that time, the audience to cable access was very limited. I don't know, does it still exist?
In some areas, yeah. I mean, in 2008, the government cut funding on cable access and caused a lot of controversy in most areas, but there's like maybe a handful of them left in LA. We have one up here. It's mostly Christian Bible stuff. And then
Right.
there's a couple in the Bay Area, but it's mostly children's programming. And yeah, there used to be a lot more of them, but government cut funding of them. They all had to close down.
Yeah, I remember that you could get studios time and stuff like that, and you could use the machines. I don't think there was any cost. But now I guess you could make something. I mean, the whole situation's changed so much. I mean, you could probably get a show like that together today and stream it or have it on the computer, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, you could. I personally don't want to do that. I want to have professional cameras and stuff because I do not want to be compared to this guy that I interviewed, and I wasn't fully aware of who he was until much later. This guy who has a very amateurish-looking horror show, who he's banned from most conventions in the Bay Area, and he tried to sue the Creature Feature show over there over the copyright name and stuff, and he's just an unruly person. I had to block him recently. He's very strange, that guy, and I just don't want to be compared to him. I want to do something really, really good.
Yeah, something on a higher level. I mean, better quality.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Because I'm already strange, and I just don't want to be associated with a certain regime.
Strange? What's strange about you?
Oh, I have no filter. I think that sex is hilarious. I'm always talking about it. I find humor in the most inappropriate things, you know, and just in today's world, just like it turns a lot of people off.
Well, that's comedy for you, you know. I mean, when we were in the senior comedy class, the geriatric comedy class, one of the ladies said she wanted to do, and it's like about an hour, 50 minutes or something like that. And she said the next time she wanted to do one all about penises. Ew, yeah.
Oh, I think that's a great conversation there.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, and then someone else said, we're not supposed to have any limits. And somebody really objected because somebody made a crack about something about, you know, ovens and people being put in ovens and stuff. And one Jewish lady, she just hit the roof. She said, there's nothing funny about that. And I want to say right now that that should be out as a topic. And then the leader, somebody else said, well, what about, freedom of speech? And, aren't we supposed to be unlimited? And the teacher was very sweet. She's really Jo Firestone. I don't know her, but apparently she's a comedian. And she said, well, for our purposes, why don't we just not have that as a topic? But supposedly there are no limits. But, I mean, if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. I mean, these are free anyway, so what the heck? But I thought there was... Anyway, I thought, well, yeah, I mean, people should be brave, and they should yourself, because that's where you get into trouble, it seems to me. When you start censoring yourself.
Yeah, back.
That's your writing too. You don't want to censor yourself because you can always cut it later, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, back in January, I interviewed the little mean girl in the the original movie version of Annie, Roseanne Sarantino, and she's a stand-up comedian in New York now. And I told her probably the dirtiest, most foulest joke, and she thought it was hilarious. And she said to me, "Oh my God, does your mother listen to your podcast?" And I was like, "Oh yes." And she's heard me say much worse than that. My mom is not easily offended by any means.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So how do you get a hold of comedians to interview? Does one tell you about another kind of thing, or do you follow certain comedians, or?
I'm a comedy nerd, you know. I mean, I have like a Rolodex in my brain of comedians that I grew up watching on an evening at the Improv and stuff, and I just reach out to them on Facebook.
Oh, okay. I keep forgetting about Facebook.
Yeah, I've interviewed so many great ones that I interviewed and stuff. A lot of them are really cool. A lot of them are just like the stereotype of a comedian, very standoffish and very quiet off stage, and bitter too.
And bitter. Well, yeah, they're not usually terribly happy people, in my experience. But I worked with Louis C.K. I did an episode for his show, which was pretty tasteless, and but I thought he was really bright, and I really admired him for getting that show on, and it was all him. He got some sort of incredible deal where, you know, he didn't have to have the scripts okayed, and he was completely in charge, and I was really sorry when he came to grief there, and I wish him well, and I hope he gets back up there.
Oh yeah, God. I mean, I don't know. There's something about him. I never really liked him as a comedian, though. I think his jokes.
He's creepy, no question.
I think his jokes are brilliant, but I just think that he looks predatory on stage overall, you know. And I didn't feel any weirdness when I heard that he masturbated in front of women and stuff. No.
Yeah, no, it made total sense. You know, it just, you know, yes, obviously he did that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was wrong because he was taking advantage of people that, you know, he was powerful. He was, you know, they couldn't fight back. And that was what was really awful about it. You know, if it were people that could, you know, tell him to go fuck himself. I mean, but it wasn't. So that was the bad thing about that. But I still admire him for doing that show, the way he did it. I mean, how he did it. He wrote it, he performed in it, he directed it, came up with all the ideas. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
And he was churning them out, you know, sort of week after week. It was quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess he's got a fatal flaw. You should try to interview him, maybe.
No, first off, I don't interview like A-list huge stars because I've heard nothing but bad things about so many of them, you know. And also, too, I don't want to interview someone that controversial, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean,
the Village. I saw him one time in an ice cream store with his two little girls.
Yeah.
And he was very sweet, you know. Oh, you know, you were on that show and you were wonderful, and I want to have you back. And then, of course, he gets kicked off the air. Excuse me, but I haven't seen him lately, so I don't know. Maybe he moved away.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you do that kind of stuff consensually, you know, that's okay as long as it doesn't hurt. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody, you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about the only up-to-date modern comedian whose work I even know. I mean, I don't really watch this stuff. I don't go to clubs. Well, of course, you can't go to clubs now, but we would sing. Then I got a little thing together where my husband and I would sing with the guy who played piano for us as a trio called the Food of Love. And then I started coming up with these shows called Bad for You, where we did our little web series, which was all sorts of songs about things that were bad for you, like smoking and drinking and illicit sex and all that kind of stuff. Because there's just so many great songs like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't really about bad behavior so much as it was, those things that we know are bad for us but are so tempting. And so we would go to various there aren't that many, at least that I know about, in Manhattan. But there are some places where you can go and you sing, and that was kind of fun and different, because you weren't in a show, like you wasn't structured. You just got up and did what you put together, but nobody else was producing it or directing it or whatever.
Right.
And it wasn't that easy getting people to come and see it. Then when we started to do it online, we got a much better audience. We were reaching so many more people. And I thought, well, this is crazy. Oh, let me do a plug while I'm at it. Because we've been doing, have you been getting our little web series newsletters thingy?
I don't think I have.
Oh, do I have your email address?
I'll give it to you.
Okay. So here's what, if people are interested, this is I have a partner who's a techie, because I'm terrible at all this stuff. It's www.badforyoutheseries, all one word, all lowercase, .com. And if they're interested, they can go to that. And we've been doing little newsletters, and it's stuff like after the riots, I went out and took pictures of all the stores boarded up, and there was some quite interesting graffiti, not what you'd expect, many of it kind of things like, stick together and don't destroy property. We're all the same color underneath, and stuff like that, which was really sweet, And so I did pictures of that, and then I wrote a song with my friend who plays the piano, and we were singing it in a restaurant, and it's called "Oh Happy Day." It's totally not really for this particular time in history, but it will be. We will have a happy day.
Yeah.
So, it's a lovely day. Sun is shining. Da, 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 da. So, anyway, we'll go back to doing those when it's safe, to be in a club again. But in the meantime, all right, let's do it again. www.badforyoutheseries.com. And you give me your email address, and at the end, and I'll put you on our list.
Okay.
Because that's a good way to keep up with what we're doing. Because we're always doing something. Now I'm working on this stupid play in Paris. Hope he doesn't get this podcast, but he won't, because he's 84 and he's in Paris.
Yeah.
And Dick's going to be doing that little show. I did a little indie about, I guess it'd be about 9 months ago. We were doing the pickups for it yesterday, and that is also something that they want to try to make into a little series. I don't know if it's. I mean, it's just something to do. I mean, I have no idea whether this thing has a chance of success or not. But it's great to keep working and meeting new people, creative people who are finding a voice for themselves,
Yeah.
I mean, this particular producer is, her name is Ashton Clay, and she's been doing funding, a whole series of these small films and pilots, I guess you'd call them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in a completely different field, and somehow she fell into it. And so she's having a great time. And it gives a whole group of people. There's a whole group of people that she's working with, that she's giving opportunities, not just people like me that have been acting since I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
but other people that are, editing and directing. And so, anyway, I always find that really exciting because it's kind of a grassroots kind of bubbling up. It's not one of the big networks that's hiring,
Right.
saying, we allow you to do this, but you can, like you were talking about, you can only do it a certain way and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just something that's just bubbled up like Perrier water out of the ground. And so we try to talk about stuff like that on the newsletters, and we're trying to get funding. We've got we're trying to get a grant to finish. We did a series of 6 little episodes of the Bad for You show, and then which is all about getting that show on in a nightclub,
Mm-hmm.
which then, and we did, and then it closed down after 34 years. And then we're trying to get the money to shoot another 6 of these little episodes. So unfortunately, the organization is on hold. We were supposed to get this submission in by October, but it looks like they've dropped it until next year.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows, again, there's all this stuff that just kind of keeps on happening. And because you can podcast now and you can connect with people online, you can do it from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be in a big city.
Yep, sure can. Are people ever surprised when they meet you and they find out that you're not like some of your characters, like Coach Steroid?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I rarely play myself. I mean, sometimes I play myself. Like in the Bad for You, I'm sort of playing myself. I don't really know. Nobody said anything like, oh my God, I expect you to be like this, but you're not. Although I think people have sort of thought in the past that I was kind of just a little piece of fluff, and are surprised at all the stuff that I do. The fact that I'm not naive and stupid. Not exactly a dumb blonde, although I'm not a blonde right now. I happen a blonde. And, gosh, I don't know. That's a good question, because a lot of times when I see a performance that really stirs me, like we're crazy now about this new show, Professor T.
Yeah.
It's from Belgium.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love it. Now, if I met one of those actors, like the guy who plays the main role, I would expect him to be like that.
Yeah.
That's because he's just such a wonderful actor that I believe him. That's true. Whoever's directing that must be brilliant, because they're all wonderful.
Yeah.
And usually, when everybody in a show is wonderful, you've got to figure it's the director or the writer or somebody who's in charge. But that's a good point, because I would expect them to be like that, and of course they're probably not. They're probably completely, especially the main character who plays a kind of a crazy person, kind of autistic weirdo, and probably isn't like that at all. So it's difficult as a person to do. You want to do a good job, and if you do a good job, then people do believe you. They relate to you as if you were that character.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's a good thing, but in a way, that's a bad thing, because that isn't you. That's a job that you did.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer to this is.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you meet somebody that you've seen in a film or something that you really liked, are you disappointed that they're different?
Only if they're not a nice person, but if they are a very nice person, it just I have that perception of that's what I wanted them to be, a good person. But I've been very
Yeah.
lucky. 99% of the people I've talked to have been good people, and I've only had 1% of assholes.
Well, that's true of actors in general. I would say that almost all the actors I know are essentially what you'd call good people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just usually one or two that are just horrible people.
Yeah.
And usually those are the people with the power. But they're scared, because actors, I mean, we're really in a very weak position on the whole. We give the appearance of, or we play strong characters that are in charge. But in a way, actors are all, well, we're weak in the sense that unless we're producing our own material, which is rare,
Mm-hmm.
We're not in charge. So it's like I don't want to put my attention. I would like to put my attention into the work, into the acting. That's really a full-time thing. That's where my heart is, and I can do a little producing or maybe even a little directing, but that's not really what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's something I do just to facilitate being able to act in something.
Right.
And have you ever acted?
Oh yes, I've been in a couple plays, couple music videos. I got offered a movie role last year, but then it got shelved because of the pandemic.
But maybe it'll come back.
I hope so. Yeah, the writer director, he's been on the show, and so we keep in contact.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. So how do you feel in terms of the difference between who you are as a person really in real life and what you portray as a character?
Well, it can be, in this day and age, it can be just so crazy and confusing for other people, I mean, I'm one of those guys, you have to look both ways before laughing, otherwise they're going to cancel you. I'm so politically incorrect, and people, they hear the jokes and they think so badly of me, but they don't take time to get to know me in depth.
Why do you think it's that well, I don't know, of course haven't seen your comedy. I don't know, what do you mean by politically incorrect? Let me put it that way.
Just inappropriate sex jokes, and they don't like brutal honesty. There's a lot of people who like to be bullshitted and stroked, and just I can't do that to people,
Yeah.
and so I can't stand censorship.
Well, when I was first learning I took that comedy class with Judy, I can't think of her last
Carter,
yeah.
Yeah.
She would say, I mean, what I got out of those classes was that all of the stuff about yourself that you were ashamed of or that you never wanted anybody else to know about, that was the good stuff. If you had the guts to get up and talk about that stuff,
Yeah.
that's your material. I mean, that's the good. I mean, it just works. And when you're a phony, there was this one guy, and he was a midget, and he would come on stage and he'd say, "I'm a fucking midget,"
Yeah.
and the audience would go, "Oh!" But if he hadn't done that, then because you walk on stage and whatever you are, the audience sees that immediately.
Right.
And then most people start denying it. They go "Oh, well, I'm not really a midget. I'm just bent over. I'm walking on my knee, and all this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
and people will buy that to a certain extent, but they don't like it. So, now she was a lesbian, and she would not come out with it, which I thought they would love you for it. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres finally did that.
Yep.
So it's what you are. The audience understands what you are immediately. And if you clue into that, then they love you. And then the whole thing works. But if you deny that, if you're like a phony, like, no, I'm a beautiful, gorgeous movie star, then they hate you. Or they're bored, or whatever. They get too much of that.
Yeah.
In this day and age. So you're right. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You have integrity.
To an extent, yes, I do. And, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to stand-up, especially with, the world being as fucked up as it is, but we'll see. I'm just happy doing this and then doing other things on the side.
Yeah, we'll stick with this and see where it takes you. It sounds like other opportunities are popping up for you because you're doing this.
Yeah.
So that's great. You have a voice.
Exactly. Exactly. It's time to play my secret silly game. I wanted to play this with you last time, but you had to go so frantically.
Oh, okay.
This is a series of slumber party questions. And how this works is I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me the exact same question and I answer it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Alex, are you ticklish?
I used to be as a kid, but I don't think so anymore. Are you ticklish?
Yes, very ticklish.
Oh, okay.
What's your favorite part of the body?
Probably my head. Probably my head, I think, is my favorite part of the body. Because I don't have to worry about losing weight in my head.
Yeah.
All right, what's the favorite part of your body?
The belly button.
The belly button, okay.
Yeah, that goes for...
Are you an innie or an outie?
I'm a very deep innie.
Oh, okay. I think I'm an innie, too. Yeah, just looked.
I saw it in Rock and Roll High School.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that scene, but I'll take your word for it.
Yes, I love everyone's belly button. What color are your toenails painted?
They are painted orange with little speckles on them. Little that are shiny. Little shiny speckles, which I did myself. And what color are your toenails?
They are au naturel right now.
Okay.
What would you say is your best personality trait?
God, I don't know. My best personality trait? I think I'm sort of reasonable, I would say. What's your best trait, personality trait?
My sense of empathy and that I have no filter. And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Well, vomit's not great.
That's a popular one.
A stinky, that's vomit, I would say. Definitely. What about you?
Either farts or feet.
Feet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sweat shoes. I mean, gym shoes with sweat socks and sticky feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I love that picture you sent me at Christmas time.
Oh, that was from a film I was in, right?
Yes, with Charles Napier.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah.
That was a very screwed up guy, but I liked him a lot.
This one actress I'm friends with, I'm actually having her back on Friday. She, her husband did a show with him in the late 80s where the two of them plus Richard Roundtree, they're cowboys in the old century, and they come to modern day 1987. It was called Outlaws. Yeah.
Outliers?
Outlaws.
Outlaws.
Not outliers. Yeah, she said.
A lot of strange films. I mean,
Oh yeah, very talented. And yeah,
I don't think he got credit for it. He was always doing those outrageous, fiendish sort of characters, but, anyway, it's a real loss.
yeah.
I lost track of him. I have no idea what he was doing in his later years. I guess the 80s was the last time I saw him. Also.
He was in everything. I mean, he was in Silence of the Lambs, the Austin Powers movies.
That's right. He was in Silence of the Lambs, right, with Jonathan Demme directed it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, our director.
Yeah, he had a huge
Well,
career.
I never worked for again, but he liked Chuck and would use him over and over.
Yeah.
He picked him up because he was in those crazy movies with the guy that liked the women with the huge breasts.
Oh,
Ross Meyerson or something.
Russ Meyer. I've talked to a couple.
Russ Meyer.
I've talked to a couple ladies who worked with him, including one who dated him for a long time.
Ooh.
He was
weird.
Yeah, it was weird. He was a true misogynist, if ever there was one.
Well, I remember one story that Chuck told me, slightly scandalous. He said that when they got to the set, that Russ would separate the men from the women, and they were forbidden from having sex with each other, which often happens on a set.
Yeah.
And he would enforce this quite rigidly because he wanted that tension.
Yeah.
Wanted that sexual tension to go into the film. And it seemed to work, not all of the films work, but many of them do, in a peculiar way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. No, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but different from what you might have expected from a director like that.
Yeah.
God.
Back in June, I interviewed two ladies from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and they worked with him. Yeah, and oh my God, they were so much fun. They loved me too, and I could they're like the type of ladies I could hang out with and stuff. We were just laughing at inappropriate stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Like I said, I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to go pretty soon here. Is that about the end here?
Yeah. I think we had a great
Okay.
conversation, and you mentioned before that everything's going good in New York and stuff. I mean, I've heard about a lot of people they're losing their homes and stuff and everything, but I hope that you and your husband are very secure during this crazy time.
Well, we have a rent control department, and also I'm at the age where I've finally started getting all these actor pensions. So as long as we don't get crazy, we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can make it. So we're hanging in there, doing all our little jobs, most of which don't pay anything or anything to speak of. But we're not losing our house or having those kind of problems.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Well, you take care and keep on being empathetic. I think that's the way to go.
Oh, thanks so much, Alix, and you stay safe.
Oh no, wait! I'm gonna get your email address so I can send you the newsletters.
Okay, my email is actually public, so I don't mind talking about it. It's Tommy.
It's what? Tommy?
Tommy, Tommy.
Yeah.
Komic.
Omic.
Tommy Comic.
Tommy Comic.
@gmail.com.
Gmail.com. Okay, great. I'll send you one immediately.
Awesome.
Righty.
You stay safe.
Have a good day.
Because we need you.
Stay safe, yeah.
And God bless you. Okay.
Oh, God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Alix Elias. Ain't she a sweetheart? I love Alix. She's great. And I got to hear her swear. That's so awesome. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.